meeting of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. I am Maria Cabrera, council member at large. At this time, I would like the members of the committee to introduce themselves. We'll start with the president.
Trippy Congo, Council President.
Nathan Field, 8th District.
Vincent White, 1st District.
Brigida Fields, 5th District. Yolanda McCoy, 6th District.
Shanae Darby, 2nd District.
Are there any council members online that would introduce themselves at this time?
James Spadola at large.
Letitia Bracy at large.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to start. I thank everyone. Oh, we have a council member in the.
Councilmember Mills at large.
Okay, you are allowed to sit up here if you want. I guess we used up all the seats.
Come on up.
Yeah, you gotta sit next to me.
Even if you're not on the committee, you're welcome, and of course, you sit on the dais. Okay, so first of all, we have quite a group of people here today, so I thank all the guests that came in person to the meeting. It is wonderful to have you, as we always like to promote engagement from our community, our constituents. We are going to start with a presentation on tourism in the city of Wilmington by Jennifer Bowes, who's the Executive Director of the Greater Wilmington Convention and Visitors Bureau. At this time, Jennifer and anyone else from your group that will be speaking can come right up to the front, take a seat. There's 4 spaces there. Yeah, that's fine, thank you. And you may proceed whenever you are ready.
So I have 5 minutes to tell you everything we do. So it's kind of a high-level look at the things we do for Wilmington, and then hopefully.
You know, you can take up to 15.
Oh, really? Okay. So we are a membership-based nonprofit. We do promote the entire city and Newcastle County, but we are membership-based. Like I said, we promote all of Newcastle County, but a lot of the visitor offerings are right here in the city. So there's a big focus on the city. Our mission is basically to generate economic prosperity through tourism. What we promote attractions, restaurants, hotels, retail, parks and recreation, meetings facilities, basically anything that a visitor to our city would be interested in. Who we promote to, primarily leisure travelers. We are mostly a weekend getaway destination or a long weekend getaway destination, so we focus on people that can drive to us within a day or less. We also promote and attract meetings and conventions here to the city. Again, the convention center is right here in Wilmington, and a lot of our hotels are here. And then we also attract group tours, so that's bus tours or small groups of travelers that are led by a travel planner that go to our attractions. Next slide, please. So these are the main things that we use to promote you. Our website gets over 500,000 unique visits each year. It's visitwilmingtonde.com. Our annual travel guide, right there, that's an image of the current travel guide. The new one's coming out in a couple of months. Digital advertising is really big, mostly because our budget isn't huge. So we get a lot of bang for our buck with digital advertising. And then the Brandywine Treasure Trail Passport, which is 12 attractions, our core attractions, for one price. And 3 of them are right here in the city. So that would be the Delaware History Museum, Delaware Contemporary, and the Delaware Art Museum. And then we attend trade shows. So we sell Wilmington and Newcastle County to leisure visitors through trade shows, people that plan group tours, and then a big one is trade shows that people that plan conventions go to. We are opening a new visitor center. I don't know if any of you had visited the one that we had down on 10th Street, but we lost that during COVID. So our offices are still in the CSB, but we're opening a new visitor center in just probably a month down at the riverfront, which it's in the space shared with the Newcastle County Chamber, and it's next to the Homewood Suites. So we're really excited about that. Media relations is big. We've done really, really well, specifically for Wilmington over the last 2 years. We've had a really nice article in Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Magazine, and then the Condé Nast Traveler designation that you may have heard about, which we were named one of the 23 top destinations in 2023 to visit in the U.S. Social media is big. We have somebody that's all they do, is they do Facebook, Instagram, primarily, and they bring in social media influencers to promote the city and the county. We have a woman specifically from Wilmington. We call her WilmDE Girl. That's her hashtag. So she goes around and covers different things around the city for us, and then we post it on our page, and she posts it on her social media channels as well. And then we also serve as a catalyst for collaboration. As I said, our budget isn't really big, but we try to get everybody together that's in the tourism industry to exchange ideas and work together and kind of have a greater return on investment for our marketing dollars by working together, and assist with partners with marketing strategies. That's another thing. If somebody has an event coming up, an exhibition, we'll meet with them and kind of give them ideas on how they can, attract the maximum number of visitors. All right, next slide. Initiatives that support Wilmington. We are located downtown. We will always be located downtown. As I said, our offices are at the Community Service Building, so we're accessible to small businesses and tourism attractions in the city. And then the new visitor center will be down at the riverfront. We're excited about that because that's going to give us direct contact to the hotels down there and also the convention center. Corporate sponsorship program. This is something that I'm really excited about. This was the brainchild of Diane Angeline, who's our membership director. Our membership, as I said, we promote everyone, but paid members have a more opportunity to get promoted by us. Membership ranges for an attraction from $175 to $500 a year. The hotels are more than that. It's not a lot, but for a lot of small businesses, that's a barrier. So what we started to do is partner larger businesses with some smaller businesses so that they could be members. And the first one is Bloom, which is up on North Market, and we paired them with Amazon. So NARI will now be able to be a member of the GWCVB and get all of our benefits. Welcome All campaign, that is the, we got almost $750,000, actually just over $750,000 of funding through the EDA relief grant. That's the largest amount of money we've ever spent on advertising. We put $150,000 of our own money into that, and that's launching in April, so that's a big deal. And that's going to be television commercials and digital advertising primarily with a social media component. Mobile discount pass, that's what is pictured there on the screen. So that's something that members can participate in for free, and they offer discounts, and that's not an app. It looks like one. It works actually easier than an app. And then visitors and even residents can download it to get special deals all around the city and outside the city as well. Promotion of small and minority-owned businesses. This is something that we've really put a focus on over the past year and a half, and we plan to continue to do so through all of our marketing channels. And then also, the arts was another area we kind of thought we could do better with in terms of promotion. So we have now a designated arts blog that's published once a month, and we're going to do a geo-fencing campaign specifically for the arts in the fall. And how that works is it's almost like drawing a circle around a geographic area and then delivering digital ads to them through their cell phone. So we're going to target areas that our arts community wants to reach and then deliver ads to them to hopefully boost ticket sales. We have a new food blog coming. That's a great way that small restaurants, I'm thinking specifically like around Union Street, can benefit. Some of those lesser known restaurants that are just as good that don't get the publicity that they should. We're going to cover those in that. And then I talked to you about WilmingtonDE Girl. You should check her out if you haven't.
Is she the young, excuse me, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
Is she the young lady that does the TikToks, or?
She does TikTok too.
She does do TikTok?
She has her own site too, and it's Mama Fierce or something like that. If you do WilmDE, she does a lot of work with the Delaware Art Museum. She's a teacher. Is this the same person?
No, this is not the same one, but okay, it's not the same young lady, but yeah, it's someone.
There's a
else.
woman that works for the city that you might be.
I believe that's
Alexis
what I'm talking
Harris, I think her name is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's different girl. She's good too. And then this is our team. Small but mighty, 6 people. So if you ever want to contact us, there's the contact information. We have a director of marketing, director of sales. She does the conventions. Diane Angeline, who I mentioned earlier. Jessica Horseman does our social media. And then Ella McDougall, who's been with us now 26 years. She's our administrator.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my spiel. Let me know, do you guys have any questions?
Yes, we're going to go on to questions. I would like to start with asking you, how often does the travel issue come out?
Once a year.
Once a year, okay. When you go to these trade shows, how many leads turn into actual events or meetings that take place in Wilmington? Do you track that?
So we do track it. That depends. So we just went to our first leisure show, and that's a little harder to track because that's individuals. I think with our group tour, it's kind of been slow since COVID has hit. I would say we probably get like 5-10 leads out of the big show, which is American Bus Association, and that was just held a couple weeks ago in Detroit. And then conventions is also hard to track because that's really long-term relationship building. I will say that since the Hyatt Place opened, it opened in 2019, if you remember, right before COVID, and now things are kind of starting to get back in the swing of things, and we're seeing a lot larger conventions come because we have the capacity to contain a fairly large convention. I think I have the number of rooms. I think it's 414 rooms. So a convention of 400 people, they can all stay down at the riverfront at one time. So that's really good news for Wilmington.
Okay. And I have one last question. I want to give our council members opportunities to also ask questions. With the pairing of the business, how does that work? Do they pay the membership? Do they
Yep.
sponsor? Okay.
Yeah, so we select a business that we think would be a good fit, that could really benefit, and then we go out and we look for a corporation to pair them with. And this is really the one I told you, Amazon and Nary at Bloom is the very first one, and now we're looking to branch out.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Councilmember McCoy, I saw that you had your hand up. You may proceed with your question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So my question is basically, how are you collaborating with the city of Wilmington? Are we considered a member, or is it more than that when it comes to their theme of In Wilmington?
So the city of Wilmington is a partner. The city gives us a grant every year of $20,000. We work really closely with John Rago and Paul Ford. There's also a PR person named Katie Zamara, who is the city fund, Katie? But we all work with Katie too. She does media relations along with our own PR firm, MBPR, to get publicity on the city. And I believe she is at least partially funded by the city.
May I continue?
Yes, you may follow up.
Thank you. So no, the reason why I asked is because I do realize that quite a few of our festivities have been kind of like ushered in, I guess, or started or even planned right now. I think through Tina Betts.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Tina Betts is our newest board member.
Oh, great.
So-
So I just wanted to make certain that how the city actually filters in, not just giving, sending out funds, whatever, to this, but to make certain that we were getting as much exposure as possible to all of our
Yeah.
events.
And we rely heavily on Tina and her group to kind of also let us know what's new. And that's the other thing I would say. Anything, we need to know what's going on in order to be able to promote it. So if you know of anything in your communities that's new, that's worth, the attention of a visitor, please let us know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have Councilmember White and then Councilmember Field.
Hello, Ms. Bose. My question is, how do you work and collaborate with events held by minorities, black and brown people in the city
So
or out of
we-
the city?
We need to do a better job of that, and we know it. We helped promote August Quarterly this past year, and I also think they went to a convention and we provided gifts for them to give out. But that's one of the areas that we need to really grow.
Follow-up, please. I
Yes, you may.
mean, that, to say that you need to grow there, this is a predominantly minority community.
Absolutely.
And I would just think it would be like at the forefront.
It
of-
is.
Of your efforts. But let me
Yeah.
finish. There's, 30 miles to the north of us there an AKA convention, Alpha Kappa Alpha. About 30,000 people are there and coming to our city is the cap of governance. So I guess my question is, I think there's leverage there, but what that outreach, do you have a plan of action specifically for those two populations?
I don't have a plan of action right now, but I would like to learn more about those two things because I was unaware of them.
No other questions?
Councilmember Field?
Yes, I have actually 3 questions, and I can say them one by one or just
Okay.
read them out and then repeat them if need be. First question is, how do you measure success in terms of promoting visits to Wilmington? Is there any attempts to measure total visits or total number of people coming to the city, just in pure objective data? I know that it seems to me that still because of COVID, just attendance at events across the board is down.
Right.
And is there any kind of long-term or short-term attempt to gather data? And then the second question is, the riverfront and downtown have built-in natural things to visit, and they get a lot of attention. Are there programs to drive people or tell people about things happening in the rest of the city? And then the third question is, I'm curious, what do you think the city is doing well or not so well in terms of what it could be doing to just get more people coming to Wilmington?
Okay. I'll answer your first question.
And he'll repeat them if
Yeah,
you
because I was
forgot.
like,
One by one.
so the state provides us with data on an annual basis in terms of visitation to the city. We didn't get it, they didn't release it last year because it was an off year because of COVID. We're going to get the data. Tourism Week, specifically May 11th, they're going to release it.
Okay.
So we use that as a benchmark. We don't have the funds to do our own economic impact study or visitation study, so we rely on a lot of things like how many meetings and conventions we bring in, how many group tours we bring in, and then the traffic to our website is also important. And then there's some conversion data that our marketing director has access to. How many people actually made trips
Okay.
versus how many visited the website. And the second
The
question.
second question was, what kinds of things are you doing to drive people to events or tell people about events, get people to visit events outside the riverfront and downtown?
So we have an events calendar on our website, and it's in fact the most visited page on our website. And so anyone can put any event that they have that would be of interest to a visitor on that calendar. They don't have to be a member. We also have an individual that works for us part-time because we know a lot of people don't have time to get to that, especially if they have a small staff, and he goes out and looks for events to add to that calendar. So that's the main way.
Okay. All right, and then, so is there any, on a follow-up on that one, is there anything, so the person is looking for events to add to the calendar, but is there any opportunity to more proactively, if there's a festival or something, just more actively and more proactively tell people about things that are happening in different neighborhoods around the city?
Yes, so if it's a major event, if it's going to attract people from non-residents, a lot of times we'll do blogs. We do a lot of social media posts. What I would say is if you have an event in your community, reach out and let us know about it, because we're very good about promoting things. Like I said before, if we don't know about it, we can't promote it, but we have a lot of channels we can put that information out on, whether you're a member or not.
Okay. And then the last question is, actually I have one more can I ask you a question? So a lot of people come to hotels. Most of the people that come to these hotels downtown are not from here.
Right.
They're here for whatever reason. And, when you go to a hotel in a different town, you're looking for something to do. Is there any effort to produce print marketing material and give it to the hotels to tell them these are the things that are happening in Wilmington today or this weekend or upcoming?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First, they have access to our travel guide. All they have to do is ask and we'll deliver it to the hotels. We also have a QR code because a lot of people don't like paper. All the hotels, I believe, should have, it's like an 8x10 foam core sign. So the front desk can show it to the visitor or put it on the front desk and they can click that and it goes right to our website. Weekly, we also send out an events listing to all the hotels. So we pick like 6 major six major events happening that weekend with a profile and send it to all of them. We also have a new ambassador program, which I meant to mention and I didn't, where Diane Angeline and Downtown Visions are going around to meet with all the front of the house staff at all the hotels in the city. And part of that is to inform them about what's going on and make sure they know about our resources for visitors.
Okay. And then the last question is, what, from your perspective, what is the city doing well? I mean, by the city, meaning City of Wilmington, not necessarily your organization, but what is the city doing well to drive people here? What could it be doing better?
I think that this is a really exciting time to be in Wilmington. I think in almost every neighborhood, there are things of value to a visitor. I think that the tourism product is really strong, and I think that's something that we're doing really well. I also think we're working together as a team better than we have in the past. You know, all the different entities in the city that are involved in tourism promotion or economic development. So we're getting all on the same page about what everybody's got going on and the different promotional tools we have and cross-promoting those things. I think we're doing that really well.
What about not so well?
I think we still have, I think we're, hopefully this campaign that I mentioned earlier will kind of help us, but I think we have a little bit of an identity problem. I think because we haven't had the promotional tools that other destinations have had in the past, I think people really just, a lot of people aren't aware of all the things that we have to offer here.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I just want to point out again, I know that there's a plans, I don't know how long it will take to do a streetscape on Union Street. I think that's the next tourism destination because I think people that go, our food scene is really strong. And I think if you're a true foodie, you're going to go to Bardea one night and then you're going to want to go down to Union Street and go to one of the restaurants there on another night. And I think that's another important strength that I would like to see us leverage, and that's part of the reason we hired the food blogger.
Well, I want to thank you for answering my questions. The reason I invited you in was to just initiate, like you said, it's kind of a new era, and
Yeah.
we do lack an identity. We
Yeah.
do not really have a strong identity, and I hope this visit and your testimony initiates just more of a discussion and more interaction with City Council about what we can do to get more people coming to the city of Wilmington.
Yes.
And not just a couple neighborhoods, but all over, because there really is a lot going on, and most people don't know about it.
Right, I
It
agree.
is, there's so much information out there with, people are blasted with stuff on their phones, and there's no newspaper anymore, or not like what it was, and so it's just hard to find out about stuff. And so I'm looking forward to working together and just seeing more conversations take place on that. So thank you for coming in.
Thanks, and I'll just close by saying again, please share any information you have about things you know going on in your community that would be of interest to us that we could promote. I think that's one way we could work together.
Great. Council President has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I missed it, but how are you funded?
We
I
are
mean-
funded primarily by the public accommodations tax, so that's about 98% of our funding.
Okay.
Then the rest of it is membership, which is that comes in $65,000 a year right now. And then the city gives us a grant, which is $20,000 a year.
Okay, all right, thank you. And as you try to, strengthen your relationship with the Black and brown community and the businesses, you might want to reach out to DelawareBlack.com and also the Black Chamber of Commerce, and we can help you with those connections.
I would love that.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry, there is a large, real large, population on, I wanna say social media called, Black Money Matters.
Black money.
You might wanna follow them because
Okay.
they have a lot of different events and different things
Okay.
like that they definitely put out for, the Black and brown community.
Okay,
So you might wanna tap in, you might wanna just talk to those administrators.
I will. Thank you.
Do any of our council members that are online have a question or a comment? Okay, and Councilman White?
Just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned, and I think the comments from Councilwoman Fields and Council President, this comment about serving black and brown communities, you said that's not something that you do well. And
I think that it's something that we definitely need to do better.
so my follow-up is simply, is that something you'd put in writing and share with council, how you plan, a plan of action to
Yep.
do that? Okay,
I will
thank
do
you.
it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Councilmember McCoy?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I just wanted to find out, is Diane Angeline the person that we should be contacting when we find out about events, things that are happening annually that we want to make certain
Yes.
gets on here?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, I will welcome any questions from the public. Is there anyone here that would like to ask a question or make a comment? And do we have anyone online that would like to make a comment or question? No public comment. So with that, we're going to close. My final comments are, one of the things I would like to see is to, even like our monthly events, like the Art Loop, or things like that publicized. Is that something that you guys share?
Yeah, they're on the calendar, and we have done blogs in the past on those things, absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
You're
for making this presentation. I used to run the events for the city when I was a special events coordinator, so I know it's not easy, but one of the things that we did is we really went out of town. When the Jazz Festival came around, it seemed like more people outside of Wilmington knew it was coming than the people in Wilmington, and I thought that that was one event where we really started driving people to Wilmington, and we used that for cultural tourism to fill the hotels, to do all of that, which is why we changed it from Wednesday through Sunday versus the Monday through Friday many, many years ago. So I know that special events, the cultural arts is a way to draw people into the community. Obviously, we are a city on the move, our food restaurants, our attractions, so we hope to work together. One of the things we can do as council members is to, maybe we could do a separate group and do a little breakout and really come up with ideas of ways to include more of our minority communities and promote the events that they have going on, so we can really show the whole picture of who we are and how this is a place to not be somebody, but to come and visit.
Right, I would appreciate that.
Yes, I, for one, would definitely help with that. I'm sure Councilman White will as well, and Councilman Field. So with that, we thank you so much for this presentation, and we will stay in touch. And if you want to give your name and phone number again, just for people to reach out in the public.
So my name is Jennifer Bose, Executive Director of the Greater Wilmington Convention and Visitors Bureau. My phone number is 302-245-6644. And should I give my email too?
Well, the website.
Oh, it's visitwilmingtonde.com.
That's pretty easy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is a resolution supporting the submission to the state of Delaware of the city proposed amendment to expand the boundaries of its downtown development district. The sponsor is Councilman Mills, and he's here to speak to that. And you may proceed, Councilman Mills, and anyone that you have that is going to speak to this is more than welcome to come forward now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly to this resolution supporting the state submission to expand the boundaries of the DDD. As we're all aware of the DDD and the wonderful work they've done in our city, reference to the riverfront, the outstanding economic impact that it has been able to have on our city. This right here is in reference to the North Market Street corridor and the investment, much needed investment in that area. And it also touches 3 councilmatic districts, which I think is a very important part, District 1, District 2, and District 3. And we've seen how the economic impact was able to happen on Market Street. And all of us, I know some of us are old enough to remember the Market Street Mall prior to the DDD and the work that was done at the riverfront, and remember all the vacant shops and empty storefronts. And now we see the vibrant business district, attracting business, retaining business, creating jobs. And we are hoping to have that similar same impact up the other end of North Market Street corridor, where there still remains the empty vacant shops, the lack of investment at times. So we are very hopeful with this project from the DDD. And there are some gentlemen here from the Land and Use that will speak more into details, but thank you again for this opportunity. And again, I just wanted to stress the fact that it touches 3 councilmatic districts, And I know myself, as a number of other council people have heard time and time again how all the money, so much money is being spent in the riverfront, and how much money is going to be spent why don't we spend this in the community? And this is an opportunity to show and invest in the community. So thank you for your time, and I'll let the gentleman from Atlanta you speak. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we do have Mr. John Kirk, or you can go ahead and introduce yourself, your title, and you may proceed to give us more information.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Council President Congo, and members of City Council, and my fellow colleagues and members of the public. My name is John Kurth, Senior Planner in the Department of Land Use and Planning. With me tonight are Jeffrey Starkey, Director of Land Use and Planning, Elliot Larkin, Deputy Director of Land Use, Tim Lucas, Deputy Director of Planning, and Peter Weir of the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the committee the city's proposed amendments to Wilmington's official Downtown Development District boundary map. From here on, I will be referring to the Downtown Development District program in my comments as DDD. For some background, Wilmington was one of the first 3 cities and towns to be accepted into the state's DDD program, which is administered by the Delaware State Housing Authority, or DSHA, and overseen by the Office of State Planning Coordination, OSPC, in January of 2015. The initial acreage offered to the city at that time was 225 acres. This slide before you provides an overview of the DDD expansion between 2016 and 2019, as several amendments were made to the DDD and territory was added within the 225 acre allowance. The original 2015 boundaries are shown in green between North Church Street on the east, East 11th, East 10th, and East 9th Street on the north, North Adams Street on the west, and West 4th, West 2nd, and East 7th Street on the south. Note that 4 small acreage amendments were made to the original boundaries during those 3 years as potential projects were identified, and they are called out in the yellow bubbles. Next slide. In 2019, OSPC offered cities with populations greater than 30,000 residents, that is Wilmington and Dover, the opportunity to add 25 additional acres to their boundaries. This brought Wilmington's official DDD acreage up to 250 acres. The map here indicates the Planning Department and Office of Economic Development's proposed expansion at that time. Note the Brandywine Building addition at West 10th Street and Northwest Streets, but more importantly, the expansion of DDD boundaries across the Brandywine Creek and into Brandywine Village area of the city. I included this version of the map to highlight that OSPC regulations require that all 12 participating municipalities include the area of the surrounding street beds, shown in gray, into the boundary acreage calculations. This part of the expansion followed North Market Street from 13th Street until its terminus at 24th Street, and accounted for almost 30 acres of area, approximately 5 more acres than the allowance given. To adhere to the 25-acre allotment, the city requested permission to remove 4.8 acres from its official map, shown in red. This cluster of buildings represents government-owned buildings and parcels, specifically the Boggs Federal Courthouse, the Carvel State Office Building, the Lewis Redding City County Building, and Peter Spencer Plaza. These parcels and buildings are not eligible to participate because they're government-owned. With the owner's consent of no objection, their removal brought the official DDD acreage to 249.46 acres, and the proposal was simultaneously approved by City Council and the Cabinet Committee on State Planning Issues on June 20th, 2019. Next slide. This slide is taken from OSPC's website and illustrates the dispersal of large and small DDD rebates to private property owners, developers, and nonprofit organizations over a 6-year period. The stars are completed large projects which represent a qualified renovation investment of at least $350,000, and the circles are completed small projects which represent qualified renovation costs of at least $25,000. Note that this map does not represent large and small project investments rebated after July 1st, 2020. Next slide, please. This slide is a comparison of DDD rebates versus private investment generated from January 2015 through July 2020. Wilmington is shown on the bottom row. The bullets on the left explain the significance of the 29 large and 28 small projects completed and rebated. $12.7 million in state taxpayer money in the form of rebates spurred $255 million in private investment. Next slide, please. This slide is almost identical to the previous slide, but adds one fiscal year, July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, or fiscal year 2022, which corresponds to the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Note that despite the challenging global and economic conditions, the difference between this slide and the previous slide over 12 months' time is that 4 additional large projects and 8 additional small projects resulted in an additional $2.7 million in rebate incentives, which leveraged an additional $28 million in private investment in Wilmington's built environment. Next slide. As a way to provide background on the DDD state legislation, these next several slides will focus on the DSHA and OSPC processes that all 12 DDD programs must follow. This slide represents a flow chart of the legislative process, which involves City Council, OSPC, and finally CCSPI. I'll just give you a minute to examine that flow chart. Next slide. All 12 local governments statewide participating in the DDD program must offer separate incentives, and this slide represents Wilmington's incentive package offerings from the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. I'll give you a moment just to... Next slide, please. This slide represents Wilmington's efforts to get the word out to property owners within its DDD boundaries of the incentives available if they are taking on permitted projects ranging between $25,000 and $350,000 and more. In addition to targeted mailings and web-based information, such as Wilmington's DDD plan posted on its website that launched the program in 2015, staff uses software that identifies building permit issuance for properties located within the DDD boundaries that total these amounts and more so that additional mailings can provide potential applicants with information. Our partners, such as those listed in Bullet 2, work with the Office of Economic Development to also get the word out. And finally, the boots on the ground outreach represents the hundreds of phone calls and emails that staff make to potential applicants, as well as follow-up meetings over the years. Next slide, please. I will pause a moment here to allow you to read a bit about the state's program history. Note that layering applicable incentives is encouraged by the state. Next slide, please. I will pause another moment here to allow you to read about the roles and responsibilities that exist between participating municipalities, DSHA, OSPC, and related partners. The text in gold highlights technical assistance provided by potential provided to potential investors by city staff that is critical to program success. And Wilmington has enjoyed a strong and successful interdepartmental collaboration over the years to assist investors in the DDD program. Next slide, please. This slide simply highlights the state and local government interactions that occur and have been a keystone to the program's success. Next slide. This slide outlines the project eligibility criteria in the left-hand column and some of the qualified investment categories in the right-hand column. At the bottom, note that government-owned buildings are not eligible for the DDD rebate. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the amount of qualified real property investments, or QRPIs, as determined by DSHA staff, with small projects listed in the left-hand column and large projects listed in the right-hand column. Toward the bottom of the columns are stipulations by DSHA that program applicants must adhere to in order to receive the rebate. Next slide, please. This slide simply illustrates the collaborative effort between state government and the 12 local governments that participate in the DDD program. Next slide, please. And this is my final slide, and a bulk of my presentation will, because this is where we are tonight. The final slide illustrates the proposed DDD boundary expansion you are considering tonight, based on the opportunity to add 25 acres to the boundaries, which now total 275 acres as of November 2022. At the top of the slide in yellow is the proposed approximately 14-acre expansion to the east, along the east and west sides of North Market Street between 24th Street and 30th Street, known as Area 1. This corridor is largely zoned C1 or neighborhood shopping, with small areas of C2 or neighborhood commercial and R5B, apartment house, medium density. Area 1 represents a mix of approximately 60 housing units in various conditions, a few large apartment buildings such as Herring Manor Apartments and Wilmington Housing Authority's Crestview Apartments, and several small businesses several of which occupy the ground floor of converted row houses or semi-detached twin units. Examples include a florist, 6 or 7 takeout restaurants, a liquor store, cell phone stores, beauty supply stores, barbershops, a deli, a laundromat, a check cashing operation, and a tax preparation operation. Additionally, there are several vacant storefronts. Rounding out the uses are 2 houses of worship and a large storage facility. The housing units range from from detached houses to semi-detached houses to row houses. A basic survey indicates that these residential and commercial structures vary between vacant and blighted condition to fair condition with some signs of deterioration evident, to relatively new construction, such as the Prestwick mixed-use development along the 2800 block of North Market Street. All in all, there is potential for these property owners and nonprofits to benefit from the DDD rebate should they plan on taking on renovation projects and choose to participate in the DDD program. These blocks of North Market Street, north of the Brandywine Creek, serve as a gateway into and out of Wilmington, so the opportunity to incentivize renovations to improve the interior and exterior of these buildings is important. Area 2 contains 2 priority areas within 3/4 of an acre. The former Brandywine Academy building at 5 Andover Avenue, and the series of parcels along the west side of the 1900 block of Hutton Street. That includes 1 row house at 1933 Hutton Street, 1 warehouse at 1931 Hutton Street, a series of combined vacant parcels, currently a parking lot known as 1915 Hutton Street, and a vacant triangular-shaped parcel at 1937 Hutton Street. Both priority areas are contiguous to the 2019 DDD boundary expansion and do not constitute an enclave. The rationale for including these 5 parcels is due to a major impending investment from the Ministry of Caring, Incorporated. The Hutton Street parcels will make up the north-south oriented wing of the organization's Villa Maria Senior Housing Project when it breaks ground in the near future, and will connect to the east-west oriented wing of the same housing project that faces onto North Market Street. The North Market Street parcels of the The North Market Street parcels of the Villa Maria project are already included in the 2019 DDD boundary expansion, and by including the contiguous Hutton Street properties into the expanded boundaries, the entire Villa Maria Senior Housing Project could be eligible for a DDD rebate. The former Brandywine Academy at 5 Andover Avenue is one of Wilmington's oldest buildings, constructed in 1798, and has been owned by the Delaware Architectural Foundation since 2001. It is the understanding of the Department of Land Use and Planning staff that the owner, the Delaware Architecture Foundation, is in the process of transferring this historic building to the Ministry of Caring as a donation. Once the transfer is complete, this property's interim use will be as programmatic space for the Cathedral Choir School. Until
A lot
Uh,
of talking, John, I know.
until their new structure can be completed in West Center City within the next 2 years. The zoning of these 4 parcels along Hutton Street is C2, Secondary Business Center, and the zoning for the Brandywine Academy is C1, Neighborhood Shopping. Bringing these 5 properties into the DDD boundaries is paramount to assist in the construction of much-needed senior housing and to be able to have offered the DDD rebate and to eventually renovate and bring up to current city code the venerable and historic Brandywine Academy building. Area 3 consists of a large surface parking lot owned by Colonial Parking that takes up almost half of the block, bounded by East 12th Street, North Market Street, East 13th Street, and North King Street, as well as several row houses that have been converted to serve mostly as small law offices along the 1200 block of North King Street and the unit block of East 13th Street. Anchoring the southwestern corner of North King Street and East 13th Street is the 12-story Legal Arts condominium building. This proposed area is Zone C4, or Central Office. The rationale for inclusion of these 9 parcels is that the largest parcel, the surface parking lot, is an attractive development site, according to the state's Delaware Prosperity Partnership Office. The Mayor's Office of Economic Development concurs with this determination. Given the surface parking lot's location, 2 blocks north of Rodney Square in the DuPont building, 1 block south of the Hercules building, and adjacent to Wilmington's tallest building at 1105 North Market Street, the IMP building, and 1201 North Market Street. This site is prime real estate for new commercial and/or retail construction project. The potential DDD rebate would be a key incentive. Most of the remaining 8 commercial properties serve as small offices and condominiums and contribute to the Lawyers Row district. 7 of the 8 properties exist in good to excellent condition, and 1 property existed as a long-time vacant and distressed property. Including these structures into the DDD boundaries would perhaps prompt the owners of these buildings to update their commercial properties, and in the case of 4 East 13th Street, fully renovate an eyesore building that exists adjacent to the brand-new Staybridge Suites Hotel. That concludes my presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. That was very thorough. I'm on the board of the Ministry of Caring, and that Villa Maria project is definitely a big project that we're looking to do, and will start to change a little bit of what's going on in North Market. And we know that that is an important area, the next area of the city that we want to focus on. Are there any questions from my council members on the committee members? We'll start with Mr. White, proceed with Councilmember Fields after that.
Well, full disclosure, I helped create the legislation for the DDD, and it's a long time coming in this direction. My comments is that in my council manager district, there are over 60 business licenses from Concord Ave down to 39th. And those businesses, prior to the pandemic, were very strong. And I know a lot of those, some of those businesses are on the 2nd district as well as the 3rd. The anchoring of that corridor from Concord Ave to 40th would surely boost not only economic development, but social, would pay some social dividends. I'm excited about this proposal. I'm excited about what it has to offer to the residents of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I think it's well thought out. One of the things that maybe should be explained is that capital investment. Could you talk about that capital investment and how that rebate is done?
Sure, thank you for the question. I'll start with the large projects. So you have to spend, as a QRPI, the Qualified Real Property Investment, $350,000. Now that doesn't include acquisition costs of the building or property. That doesn't include like landscaping or demolition. So you have to have a building kind of ready to go, but you're thinking of a project to take on. And say your project is over $350,000, you work with our department, and we basically write up what's called a conformity form. The applicant fills out part of it, we fill out the other part, Director Starkey signs it after reviewing it, and we give it to the applicant, and it's one of 14 or 15 addendums that they provide to the state. Now these addendums are, I mean, they can be quite I don't see them because that's not my role. That's DSHA down in Dover. But it's everything from proof of financing, bank loans, HUD, insurance, title work, all kinds of addendums that go in, proof of, photographic proof of conditions. Of course, if you're accepted into the program, staff from Dover will come out and walk through the project at various times to ensure that you're doing what you say you're doing. And of course, these have to be permitted projects in good standing. All 12 communities that participate, we can't really let an applicant participate if they owe the city money, like back taxes or utilities. We've had very rare instances of that, and once a reminder was made or two, those debts were quickly paid because they didn't want to jeopardize their opportunity to participate. So that's kind of a good thing for the city of Wilmington. And then basically a 20% rebate would be eligible for things like electrical updates, plumbing, HVAC, roofs, windows, doors, flooring. There's several, the list is pretty extensive. If it's a restaurant, for example, the state's not going to pay for your tables and chairs and, wallpaper.
Capital improvements.
Yeah, capital improvements.
So on a $100,000, $300,000 investment, 20% rebate would be substantial in terms of
Yeah.
rehab.
Mhm.
And then just in conclusion, we've had two projects on North Market, one in the first and one in the second, where True Access put in $300,000. One's formerly the Mbaki House at 2013 Market Street. That project just got done. We had an open house. And the other one is on right across from the Herring, where there's a contractor, and again, they got a loan from True Access for about $500,000. So I say this to demonstrate that need is there, and if that was those two contractors, if the opportunity presented itself, that would have been a win for the contractors as well as for the neighborhood. No other questions, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Field, and then Councilmember Darby.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say I would like to go on as a co-sponsor on this resolution.
Okay, we'll add you as a co-sponsor.
And secondly, thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. But my question for you is, once they get approved, does how do you keep account of who's applied, who hasn't applied? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that information given back to you? You hold on to it?
Oh, yes. Because our department processes that conformity form, that's our document. We also provide annual reports to DSHA, and you're welcome to, review them if you like. It does provide kind of a snapshot of a fiscal year starting in 2015 through, this last fiscal year. It's not a, thick document by any means, but it's Wilmington's accountability to, the state taxpayer that we're, our team, planning and Office of Economic Development, are, doing our part. And we've had great success. I think that $255 million number maybe does not include the latest $28 million that I suggested in slide, I think it was 6. So, despite the challenging economic, pandemic-induced economy, that, these projects, once they're, going, they go. Large projects have a 3-year window within which to get a certificate of occupancy. And small projects, just to get back to Councilman White's question, it's basically the same thing as a large project, except not every building needs $350,000. We're seeing, for example, the land bank, with getting, I shouldn't say getting, disposing of properties that they have, and investors are coming, and sometimes, we've even had, one family in Quaker Hill get one of those distressed properties, with the obligation that they'll live there. And, it's not a small house, but they have a large family, so it works out. So basically, this program is very helpful to get them over the finish line.
Can I follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So, do all of the businesses know about this, or like do people that decide to purchase homes or rehab homes, how are they privy to this information?
Well, as I said, we had a targeted mailing early on. I wasn't part of the process back then. We've had a very spirited conversation about doing another targeted mailing. We have obviously the tax parcel data, and we don't want to necessarily send it to, whatever East 7th Street, because that could be a rental and the tenant gets the mail and says, what's this? And, recycles it or throws it away. So we are going to, we go through our mailing list very carefully, and we make sure that we're getting this information to the property owner so that he or she can make, a decision. Maybe this is the right time to do a HELOC and, make an investment. And if it's a rental property that they're talking about, then the tenant, would benefit because, now's the time to, improve the electrical, or improve the plumbing, put a new roof on so that you're not getting water damage and mold. So this, we do a very thorough dig into, the resources we have in terms of our database to get the word out. We don't do a mailing every year, but, we do fairly often, every couple of years, and I think we're due now, especially with this expanded, hopefully expanded territory. And that would be for the entire, from the original to all the little, this would be, I think, the sixth edition, hopefully. Excuse me. So our website's been helpful, and I just got to say that in my role as a planner, I'm talking with small businesses, restaurants. I'm out there a lot, and I get a lot of calls, and word of mouth has been really helpful as well.
I'd just like to say thank you very much, because you're very involved in the West Center City area, and I was just going to ask you, so if I happen to find a business that you didn't knock on their door yet, I wanted to send them to
My
you.
phone's always available.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go on to my next two council members who have questions, I just wanted to ask real quickly, do you get a good response from the property owners when you do those mailers?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. I made a list here, and this is about 18 months worth of letters that I've sent out. And again, we have this software program that when a contractor or a property owner takes out a building permit or permits that at least trip $25,000, I'm notified, and my colleague in OED is notified. The first thing I do is I talk to our finance department to see if this property owner is in good standing with their obligations to the city. Even if they're not, unless it's like a major amount of money. But if it's, something that can be, in the letter that goes, I custom draft a kind of a welcome letter, and, say in the bottom paragraph that, in order to participate, you have to be, debt-free to the city, and that will maybe trigger them after they review the information that's in there to, I better, I'm past due on my water bills, or, I'm past due on my taxes from last quarter or whatever. By and large, they'll pay them. But to your point, I sent out about 29 of these letters that I only knew about because of our program. And let's see. The state said that 9 of the 29 letters, the applicants at least reached out to them. That doesn't mean they actually participated, but they at least asked for more information. Like I said, the state's requirements to be able to participate are you know, I mean, for a large corporation or a large developer, no big deal because they have staff to handle that. But, you know, we want to get more of the small projects, the row house being rehabbed or the semi-detached twin. And we've been getting some success in that area. But, you know, I'll be frank, I was surprised that, you know, I put my phone number on there, but then I also put DSHA's main staff person to start with. And I give them the whole, you know, 30-page guidelines, so if they don't have internet access or they don't have to look at it on their phone, they can just read it, highlight it, and kind of, you know, pay attention to the program. I was expecting more, and that doesn't mean that, you know, the other 20 people, you know, won't participate. Maybe the pandemic put their project on hold, and they hopefully retain that information, and when the time is right and they decide to pull the trigger, then they can, you know, hopefully participate.
Well, maybe we can be more helpful with that, but let's go to Councilmember Darby and then Councilmember McCoy, and I'd like to recognize that Councilmember Anthony Oliver has joined us.
Yes, thank you. No, I am thrilled for this expansion to happen on North Market Street, but so I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. I think that true investment needs to happen in North Wilmington, and it hasn't been happening. It's only been happening on one side of Wilmington. But I do want to shout out True Assets Capital, who have been doing a lot of investment on North Market Street, Northeast Collaborate, all the NPCs that have been getting together to talk about this, because this has been in discussion for a while about expanding out the DDDs. But I do want to say that on a few of my walkthroughs with talking to business owners and reaching out to landlords about the DDD, there's a lot of barriers in regards to like the requirements
Right.
to even apply. So that's what I'm getting when we talk about like how do we do outreach. I think council people should be out there. So like I'll do like walkthroughs with like LNI, the Office of Economic Development, and I'm reaching out to the landlords and the business owners, and I'm like, hey, you know, we have DDD, you have the strategic funding, ways to tap into different funding, and a lot of people are having issues, especially small businesses, with the requirements. So I don't know if that's a conversation to happen, because I think it's great to expand it, but then if people don't have access to it, because it's kind of like the land bank is great, right? It's houses, but a lot of people don't have the capital to get the houses, right? So I think the land bank is a great program, but a lot of people just don't have an extra $40,000, $50,000 sitting at home, or whatever the required, maybe be $5,000, $10,000, whatever, to have access to it. So I think this is a great first step, but then I think the next step is talking about how do we look at those requirements so that more small businesses are able to have access to DDD and all these other fundings available. So I'm willing to be a part of that conversation and bring some second district business owners and landlords in that I have been talking to already on North Market Street.
Well, that's, thank you for the comment. That reminds me of a bit of a story, if I may. I mean, one of our initial small business owners, Rosie Tooley, a retired school teacher, she tried to participate in the DDD on one of her East 10th Street properties, and I can't remember why, but it didn't work out. So, but she was not to be deterred. I don't know if you've ever met her, but an incredible lady. She came back with a business plan, and she founded Lazarus Educational Services, Inc. on 10th and Bennett Street, East 10th and Bennett Street. And I'm familiar with, I do a lot of work on the east side, and I wondered if that was going to be a demolition someday. I mean, it was a known drug house. The openings weren't secured. Bennett Street on the 1000 block is challenged, let's say. And she came in, got the house for not a lot, but I mean, it needed a lot. And we worked with her very closely. She did get her DDD this time because, you know, she learned a little bit the first time, you know, regrouped, and we, Office of Economic Development staff and myself, we toured the finished product, and it's incredible. It's a you know, a small business incubator, I should say. The services she offers, and I'm not saying that she's going to offer mentoring or, you know, giving classes to would-be, because, you know, she's trying to run a business, but I mean, you look at, if you haven't been to her
What's the name of it again?
Lazarus Educational Services, Inc. Or
What is
Lazarus
Lazarus, okay.
Educational Services, Inc. And she said that like the Bible, where Lazarus, I think, was dead and then was brought back from the dead. She's kind
You're
of, that's
preach
her,
now.
that's kind of her outlook. And it's just, it's one of those things where, it may not have worked on the first bounce, but she just got a property like a couple doors down on the same street. And, but you're right. I mean, we, Office of Economic Development, we'll be strategizing on, how do we, get this. I mean, it's the state requirements. We can't do anything about that, but we can try to, look at it from a different angle.
Well, I think that maybe one of the ideas that were churning in my mind as we were speaking about this is maybe there should be workshops and there should be availability, maybe like we do with small businesses. You partner them with someone who can help them, like SCORE, and they help them do that. It's
Right.
almost like, someone teaching you how to write the grant, because that's how we can now include all those businesses, because that is a distressed area. And if we can get more of these North Market businesses and others to participate in this, that would be awesome. So the next question is coming from Councilmember McCoy, and then we have Councilmember Oliver.
Okay.
And Anita, let me know if Spadola or anybody online wants to ask a question, please.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is fairly easy. What it was actually Area 1, the development site. I was just wondering why that decision was made that you may expand that one block rather than expanding it another extra block up Market Street. So that area is there's a lot of development actually happening already on that area. That's on Market Street between 12th and 13th. So there's already a lot of things going on right there. And with the other areas being so as impoverished as they are, you would think that you would use this 0.97 acres just to shoot it up a little bit further up Market rather than just put this little.
Well,
So I would just ask that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I tried to touch on that in my presentation. We identified I think, 0.978 acres as priority projects because, the Villa Maria project, has been, I don't want to say languishing, but it's been a long time coming. The need for senior housing, affordable senior housing is crucial. Brother Ronald and Ministry of Caring over 25 years have proven time and time again that if they have the opportunity and an incentive in this case, hopefully, they will follow through, just 110%. I mean, look at one of our first, maybe second or third round early on, it was 2016. Some of you may be familiar with, now I'm forgetting the name of the retirement, senior,
Sacred Heart?
no, on 10th and Bennett, East 10th and Bennett.
It's Sacred Heart too.
Sacred Heart
Sacred
2,
Heart,
thank
yeah.
you, yeah, Sacred Heart 2. Brother Ron worked with us there, and this will just be another, maybe smaller, or just a different shaped building, but on main transit lines with all of the benefits and amenities that his organization provides. And then, of course, we pulled in the Brandywine Academy because now that Brother Ronald has the ability to get that donated, hopefully, I think the transition's in process. That building, I haven't been in it in probably almost 20 years, but you can imagine, built in 1798, there's going to be some code issues if they want to get in a new tenant someday, or the systems are old or failing, or the roof needs work.
Asbestos.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So we wanted to make sure, since it was contiguous to an already approved area, to not forget about that, because again, in my opinion, and I think in Land Use and Planning's opinion, every project we've done with Brother Ronald and his organization, and he's done other small DDD and large DDDs, 4th and 403 Washington, 704 Northwest Street, which is the House of Joseph. And another one comes to mind, but not quite to mind. But he's been a proven player, so we wanted to just, make sure that we identify those as priority projects, so that because to be honest, in 2019, by the time we got the previous amendment going, he had already been underway on the Village of St. John, which is a massive undertaking, turned out beautifully, and he was over the 60% rule of construction, which means, they were finishing up too late. You can't be more than a certain percentage of construction complete. You can't just be like finishing up and saying, oh yeah, I want to, you have to prove your interest and ability early on, at least before the halfway point, and they were, so he missed that opportunity, and this is like, in my opinion, a second chance.
Great. And now, Councilmember Oliver, you may proceed with your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I'm just going to make a few,
I'm
highlight
sorry.
a few statements. First of all, I'd like to thank Councilman Mills for bringing this to light. I've been walking around and talking about this ever since 2015 and 16. I've walked out there on several occasions with Jeff Starkey. I've worked out with Jeff Flynn. I also walked out with Jim Sheraton and Mr. DeBar from the Game Changers. And when we walked up and down Market Street, a lot of it, and that's when Jim Sheraton was working with Wi-Fi, and they were trying to give him $10,000 just to participate. And unfortunately, and they was giving it away. They just weren't interested for whatever apparent reason. So, you know, some of the merchants up there have to want to participate, and for whatever reason, because you have liquor stores up there, you have Chinese stores up there. He was trying to give away Wi-Fi and give them $10,000. And it was just a lot of vacant buildings. So they weren't interested in participating. But I am so glad that this project has come to light, you know, with the civic associations and, you know, Bobby Britton, Wayna. I mean, she came on late, but I have to give Jan Dennis his props because he's been working with this for years. So I'm just glad to see this expansion, you know, take place, and working with Priscilla from Brother Ron, and that's coming over on Hutton Street. And I'm excited. So I wanted to thank Dorian. She hasn't been in planning long, but we rode around there a couple of weeks ago because she wanted to see just what was going on, and she was explaining a lot of things to me about planning. But with that being said, I'm just glad to see that it's come to light, and it's been overdue for a long time, and that neighborhood has been forgotten. And, you know, just a bunch of vacant buildings. Now I see some of them coming down. A lot of them are being purchased. And I would be remiss if I wouldn't thank Senator Darius Brown for all of his effort and the funding that he's really putting into this project. So, I mean, one thing I have to say, Old Brandywine Village, Brandywine Partners, East Side, 3rd District is just really excited about all the work that's being done for us, revitalizing the city. And thank you, Jeff Starkey, for all the work you do. That's all I have to say. Thanks a lot.
Councilmember McCoy is going to circle back with a follow-up question.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to make certain that I'm added as a co-sponsor.
I'm going to add you, and you would like to be excused? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Councilman-
I'm sorry, could you add me as a co-sponsor?
Yeah, I have a whole list of people that want to be sponsors, and I will give them.
Thank you.
I have Fields, White, Cabrera, Darby, McCoy, and Oliver. And Councilmember White he needs to make a comment.
Okay, and I'd like
Just
to be
to follow,
excused.
just to follow up on two things that were said. Delaware State Housing Authority will provide technical assistance for applicants, and that's a part of the code. The other issue, John, is that you mentioned, or maybe you implied, just so the enabling legislation, section 29.1, allows tenants to be a director investor for the DDD. So when you said you don't want to send it to tenants, but a tenant in a commercial building,
Sure.
their proportionate share of that building can be used in the DDD as long as there is a valid lease. So back to Councilman Darby's comments, there are investors who can be tenants as a part of apply for for DDD. So I just want to clarify that. And the technical assistance that DSHA provides is very
Very good, yes.
very good.
And thank you for bringing that up. I can think of a few
Thank you, Madam Chair.
examples more in the central business district, but as long as the building owner or the landlord, you know, signs off on it, and there's a couple of other things like you mentioned, you know, the tenant, the retail tenant is free to participate.
But clearly a retail tenant, not a residential tenant.
I can't think of,
It doesn't make that distinguish.
It
I
doesn't
mean,
distinguish?
no, I haven't.
So my question was, with the land bank properties, because a lot of them are in this distressed area. So if somebody buys a land bank property, they're fixing it up, some of them are selling them, renting them, and some will live in them. They would also qualify to apply for this.
Yes, we're going to be meeting with a small investment group probably next week that's eyeing up purchasing about 8 properties, and they're very interested in the DDD, and we'll be talking with them. But to my understanding, it's mostly for the person putting themselves out there. I don't know if there's you have to hold the property for 5 years. You can't just. And I don't know, I'd have to actually do a little research on that, but, do you get a land-based property for very little money, you put your money in, you get your DDD, and then, I don't want to use the word flip, but that's the word that comes to mind, flip it real quick, or, for example, the State Historic Tax Credit Program has a 5-year recapture period, so if you want to do that, you want to flip it, then you lose like a certain percentage. If you only held it for 2 years and sell it, then you lose, 60% of your credit. So there could be that aspect, but as far as like investors that aren't going to hold on to them, they will be fully eligible. And of course, if you buy a land bank property and live in it, same thing.
Good. Well, we definitely want more homeowners. We don't want them flipping. We want them living in them. Is there any of the council members, Bracy or Spill online, that have any questions?
No, Madam, I'd like to be excused. I just wanted to come in and show my support for this
Yes, you may be
project.
excused.
Thank you so much.
The sponsor, Councilman Mills, would you have any closing comments?
I would just like to say thank you to all the colleagues. Thank you to John. Thank you to all the staff that participated in this, and special thank you to Senator Darius Brown for all the amazing work, and look forward to the outstanding work you guys are going to do in the community. Thank you very
Look
much.
forward to it. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere, John.
Okay.
You'll be needed for the next agenda item. So the next one is, thank you, Councilman Mills. A resolution requesting that the state of Delaware to increase the maximum size for downtown development districts in jurisdictions with populations over 30,000 to 375 acres. The sponsor is Councilman Johnson. He is not able to be here this evening, but he's asked me to speak to this. So along the same lines, we know that to be able to participate in this program, it's got to be contiguous. And then we have the allotment of the acres, which we had to, get rid of the county, the government buildings in order to acquire those extra acres. But he, the administration, as well as Councilman Johnson and some of us, would like to see this expanded into other areas, because right now it seems like there's unequal development opportunities between the east and the west side of the city because it's not continuous. So there will be an amendment be brought before council to ask the state to look and consider at either dropping the contiguous and to add it to 375 acres. So that's the next resolution, and we don't have to vote the resolution out. But is that something you could speak to, or what do you think would be our chances, or why does it have to be
Well,
contiguous?
to be honest, I don't think I can, because I only heard about this about a little over 24 hours ago, and I haven't had a chance to look at the language. You explained it pretty clearly.
Thank you.
And I don't think it's my place to
Okay.
give chances. These decisions rest with the Office of State Planning Coordination, David Edgell and his staff. They're very well versed. I've been participating at the annual meetings where we get all 12 community representatives around a huge table in Dover. I don't remember this coming up at any one meeting in terms of either. They give allotments of acreage. It's a sliding scale for small towns under 9,000. It won't be 25 acres. It might be 10 acres. If it's a medium-sized town of, 10 to 15,000, it could be 15 acres, and then 30,000 and more, 25 acres. But
So we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah,
what
it's
happens,
really
yeah.
it's out of planning's hands.
Okay.
If they can convince the people in Dover that one of those two options makes sense, then we'll be brought into the equation.
Great. Are there any questions on this from any of our council members? Okay, well, not hearing any. This has been a very lively discussion, and we've been educated about this process. Is there anyone from the public online that might have any questions? Do we see anything? Okay, so not having any public questions at this time, I am Councilmember Maria Cabrera, Chair of this committee, and I am calling for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It has been properly, and I need a second.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, everyone, good night. Thank you for joining us, and our city council meeting is next Thursday, where the mayor will do his budget address, and the meeting will start at 6 p.m. Thank you so much.